like there are 4 accepted professions to Nigerian parents. It's either doctor, lawyer. You could be engineer,
Yeah.
and then a 4th alternate for a pastor or something like that, but only because it's a man of God. And even then, it's like still you can get your engineering in while you're talking to God and stuff.
My thought for you, not to continually talk about your height, but my feeling for you is there any bed that's long enough?
No, I've been getting California Kings for like whenever I get a bed for I don't know how long now. It just doesn't make any sense anywhere else. I still have to sleep a little diagonal to not have my feet coming off the end where the monsters are and all that.
Oh, well, obviously.
Yeah, but then so that I do the California King thing, and yeah, that's pretty much the only way to go. King size is cool, but then I'm sometimes like damn near horizontal the way I'm sleeping.
Yeah, by the way, not to harp on this, but I just find it so funny. Why is it that we all are just like, yeah, if the foot's out, then anything can come get you?
Something just is it's one of those lizard brain things to where it's like, if my foot is off the bed, then I'm more susceptible to predators. You just
100%.
feel like that there's back in Nigeria, my brother, he's about my height. He has like easily 100 pounds on me. So I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
And then when we were teenagers, he was bitten by a rat. These were Nigerian rats. These are the ones that like work for their keep. Like this is like I don't know how to. We call it like bush rat. It's like some of these get to be the sizes to where it has to become a different type of rodent or something. And then they bit him. Like I guess what they do is that they blow on your toes to try and like soothe you, and then they start trying to eat you as they do it. And then but then it bit him once, and then he woke up immediately. And ever since then, this guy, my size, my height, I mean bigger than my height, been scared of rats ever since. Like he's like huge. If he came in and saw a round the floor, he'd jump on this couch like an old lady.
You have just given me nightmares I didn't know I could have.
Yeah.
You're aware, like, I've seen a lot of horror movies these days. What you just told me is going to give me nightmares beyond anything I've seen.
Those rats, it's like, oh my gosh. I remember, like, as a kid, they would fumigate the house to, like, try and get them. And then these things would, like, kind of, like, just shrug it off. So, like, while they're dazed, like, a helper would have to come in with, like, a wooden stick and then just try and finish the job. Like, these things were...
This is the craziest
next
way.
level.
Let me tell you, so we've opened this pod with a lot of different stories and things, and people say all kinds of stuff. This is the craziest opening we've ever had.
Yeah.
Before we keep going, I'm going to introduce the tea, and then I have 1,000 questions about rats for you. But the tea that we were drinking today, so this is Kucha's Organic Ginger Refresh. This is a tea brand from Denver or Boulder or both. But it's a fantastic tea. I don't usually drink ginger tea, so I'm excited for this. Oh, that's not bad. I like that.
I like it too. Pretty much anything ginger I'm going to fuck with.
So you're a ginger guy. You like ginger.
Guy. Like all my smoothies, I don't know. There's also that health remedy to like when you're sick, you can just chew on ginger. Something somebody told me recently. It's very jarring, but you kind of feel your passages clear up a little when it happens. Fresh ginger.
You'll literally chew on ginger.
I just started it recently, and don't get me wrong, it's like, you know how you have like you brush your teeth and you have like a mint, like so like fresh, but it's kind of like that, and you just start to feel like I can breathe more a little bit. And I like that it's natural too. It's interesting.
I love how you're saying it's natural. You are the one person who would understand the actual health benefits of whether ginger works. And it's natural.
Yeah, it's all natural. It's whatever.
I mean, do people come to you a lot and go like, obviously they ask you a lot about comedy, but do people just come to you a lot and be like, hey, so by the way, I'm feeling sick. I read recently I shouldn't have Robitussin. Are people coming up to you with questions like that?
People do come up to me, and I kind of like it because at the job, it's not as much fun because usually it's the type of people that like come up to you with questions and don't want to like let you live or like let you do your job. Like there's some people that come in and you can tell they didn't get enough attention from their doctor. So they want to take it out on you and ask you every single thing about the existence of the human race or whatever. That's annoying. But then when comics or people out in the street ask me stuff, I love it just because it's like I get to use this knowledge I don't get to use very often.
You use it every day at work.
Yeah, at work, but it's not as much fun at work. It's always more interesting questions on the street too, though. It's like, am I going to OD if I take this much gabapentin?
Oh my god!
So like that type of stuff is more interesting to me.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I always wonder who the type is that actually asks questions when picking up a prescription, because the prescription says the thing on it.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, take one of these a day.
Yeah.
Take it with food.
Yeah.
And I go, okay. And then I see some people get up there, sorry, I have a question. I'm like, what else do you want to know?
It's always the same. It's usually like so sometimes it's fair because like sometimes like some drugs are like crazy dangerous. What's called the therapeutic index is like, which is like the amount of medication where it takes to treat the thing versus the amount of medication it takes to become toxic can be what's called a therapeutic index. So now when that is a narrow space,
I don't like that.
Yeah, people can get more nervous and stuff like that. And then like usually the people that ask more are going to be hypochondriacs and people that like, we're going to ask you questions anyway. And then some people freaking out, but you can, sometimes it's like people take like real intense medications. It's just like, no, I'm good. I think I got it. So it's always interesting to see the spectrum of those two people.
But I do wonder, and I talk to people about this because I think you and I are in a similar situation. As someone who has like proper working hours,
Right.
do you find the balance of your job and comedy to be hard?
Of course. Like lately, I've just kind of decided that it's like, because I know comedy is a passion, it's what I want, it's what I'm drawn to. And that's why I moved to LA. I just decided I'm just going to work part-time now to where now I'm down to like 1 or 2 days a week. I work more depending on if I need more money, but I work less if I don't. And then pretty much just taking the time to focus on the comedy, the writing, the acting, all the stuff I should have been doing this whole time, but I kind of had to balance because LA is so expensive. So that balance is damn near impossible, it feels like. But I just feel like you only get one life to live. Life is so short. Why do you spend it not doing what you love?
I mean, I'm gonna have you remind me of that tomorrow,
Yeah.
and every day when I wake up.
Yeah.
You said when you moved to LA, where were you? East Coast?
So my story is whatever. I was born in Nigeria.
Right.
I lived there for 6 years.
Yeah.
I moved to New York. I was there for 3-4 years.
Oh man, we have a lot to talk about. Okay, go on.
Then I moved back to Nigeria. I was there till 19. And then I came back here to Iowa. That's where I went to pharmacy school, Drake University. And then I was there for 8 years in Iowa. Then I moved to Dallas, Texas. That's where I started doing comedy. And then 4 years in Dallas, I moved here to go pro.
Okay, so I have 1,000 questions.
Yeah.
But let's start with this. Iowa?
Iowa, yeah.
Why Iowa?
People never realize how oblivious people in other countries are of what America's like till we get here. So like literally my thought process when I was deciding my school situation was very lazy. Like I was a good student, but my application process was 2 things. One, is that school going to require me to like write an essay? And if they do, I'm not filling out an application to that school.
Tell me you didn't end up in Iowa because you didn't want to write an essay.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then
Faji.
two, and I had good grades.
I believe you.
Yeah, and then 2, like my other thing was like it was so complicated to send like application fees from Nigeria at the time. This was like before the internet was really like, doing this thing with like PayPal and all this type of stuff.
I love how you make yourself sound like you're 80.
Yeah,
like,
but I'm just
before
saying,
like the internet was
no.
thing.
The internet was doing the same, but in terms of like you guys had the internet and we kind of knew of the internet. Like we'd have to go somewhere. You have to go to an internet cafe or
just
to
like hang out with friends. Be like,
Yeah.
you hear about this internet?
Yeah,
let's talk about
exactly. It's all the rage.
Yeah.
So then that was my application process. The funny thing is, originally I was gonna go to Baylor University in Texas.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
had I had a full ride there, I think. And then what ended up happening is when I was about to go to Baylor, they were, because they saw I was still an international student. I was gonna come and I was gonna get my green card, but then they were like, "You're an international student, so we'll give you international scholarship." So with an international scholarship compared to a full ride, it was like peanuts.
Oh.
So Drake was a school that ended up giving me a pretty good tuition, so I went there. And even the pharmacy thing, I didn't even plan on going to pharmacy school at the time. I wanted to like go to med school or do bio or pre-med or whatever. But then I remember my mom saying, "Oh, pharmacy is something good in case you don't want to go all those years of school. It's a good stepping stone." Pharmacy is literally the doctor to pharmacy program is literally in the drop down menu, and I just picked it. That's like
Are you kidding me?
I didn't even plan it. Just like, and then it just one of those things, it just starts going, and before you know, well,
You're like, I guess I'm doing this.
Yeah, I guess I'm doing this now.
I am. So, you know what's really interesting? I think about this a lot, where it's like a lot of us have made choices based on the most random shit.
Right.
Like I went to work at General Mills.
Yeah.
Did that.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to take that job. The day before, my band fell apart. We ran out of money.
You were
I
in a
found
band?
out. Yeah.
Okay.
I found out that the girl I was with at the time had started kind of indulging in other experiences. Yep.
Okay,
And I was just like, okay, well, didn't realize this was a throuple.
okay.
And was just like, that's not what I wanted. And so I got hammered, woke up the next day, hungover as crap, called General Mills, accepted the offer.
Wow.
And ended up in Minneapolis.
You see, and then your life just changes, like, especially at that moment of time, like those teens and like early 20s and stuff, like little decisions you don't realize are just making your whole life go whole different
100%.
directions. It's like crazy.
You just went to a drop-down menu.
Yeah, seriously.
Like Dr. Pharmacology.
Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah, it's like, it was one of those things, we'll see how it turns out. I was like, I'm not gonna spend 8 years and I'm not gonna go to all the pharmacies. I'll probably do something and then go somewhere else. And I got there, like, this is all right.
So you do that, and then you're like, you know where I need to go.
Yeah.
You know where the world's been waiting for me.
Yeah.
Dallas. Why?
So like, what the thing is, like I said, I was never passionate about pharmacy. It's just almost like a victim of circumstances how it happened. Yeah. So then literally I was in pharmacy school, and then like I remember, like, because the pharmacy is like a lot of people's dream, and it's like me, I wanted to be in the medical field, but pharmacy was never my dream. And I remember thinking, even freshman year, like so many people were excited, like, man, we're going to be pharmacists. We're going to change the world. We're going to be somebody. I just remember looking around.
Change the world?
I mean, that's how a lot of people feel. And then, and then I remember looking around like, look at all these nerds. And then,
what a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, what a bunch of dweebs. But it's like, I met some cool people and it's a great profession, but it's just never been my passion like that. So then when I was graduating, I was like, what do I want to do with my life? I'd always loved like joking around with my boys, making people laugh. But I'd scribble some stuff in notebooks and on computer.
So you actually had written some jokes.
Yeah. But as you know, when you write jokes before you get on stage, it's pointless in a way. Yeah.
Waffles are crazy.
Yeah. It's like you just form this whole line of logic that as soon as you get on stage, you realize the first line nobody cared about, so the rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah, then you have 5 minutes to kill.
Exactly. You have to start dancing.
You're like, hey, what other things do I have to say? I need to pick up pasta.
Exactly. What can I get some pasta material out of this? So yeah, I graduated. And then I was like, what I like doing. So I'd always love making people laugh. Coming out of Nigeria, that's not a sentence you can utter out loud. That's like, being artistic isn't really something like there are 4 accepted professions to Nigerian parents. It's either doctor, lawyer. You could be engineer, and then a 4th alternate for a pastor or something like that, but only because it's a man of God. And even then, it's like still you can get your engineering in while you're talking to God and stuff.
Yeah, someone's like, yeah, you may be a pastor, but like, what else do you do?
Exactly. So I think it's similar for Jewish people too, right? I
think it's doctor, lawyer. I mean, I guess engineer. I mean, when I was growing up, my parents were just like, please don't be a professional musician. Like, I think that was there. I think they were worried about what they didn't want me to be far less than they were concerned with what they did want me to be.
Now, what you said, comic, was that better or worse than the professional musician?
When I was 5, I think, and I believe my mother has video of this. When I was 5 years old, my mother said, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a sit-down comic. It's like a stand-up comic, but I'm lazy.
Oh, so you're already doing bits back then.
Right. And terrible ones. What a bad joke.
Sit-down comic. But how old were you?
5, 6.
Oh, that's decent for a 5-year-old.
I think I could have done more about like what's the deal with kindergarten. I think would have been some fun. Yeah. Why are we finger painting?
What's the deal with these colored pencils? They're crayons. They're not pencils.
I think there's a lot of material I could have mined there. But I said that. So my parents were kind of, I would say, like remotely aware of the possibility that like comedy was what I wanted to do.
Oh, that's dope. And that's dope that they like let you get there.
Well, they also made me, when I went to school, I was like, I said I want to be a rock star.
Nice.
And just like, and make jokes between songs, whatever. And my dad was just like, listen, that's fine.
Mhm.
I need you to not major in music. And I was like, why? And he's like, because if music doesn't work, you need a plan B. And I was like a moron. I was like, plan B is for people that aren't ready to do their plan A.
Nice.
And, and my dad was like, cool, you need a plan B. And I was like, okay. So I went and majored in business, but like, I didn't give a shit about that.
Dope. Exactly. So similar to that. And it's like, so yeah, when I was graduating, I was like, what I want to do, I always love making people laugh. So that I moved down to Texas. My mom was in Houston at the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the missing piece here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had family in
Yeah,
Texas.
my mom was in Houston, but then there weren't any like pharmacist opportunities in Houston. I had to obviously work.
Yeah.
Because like I had to pay all these bills and loans and stuff.
Houston's huge. There
Houston's
were no
huge.
pharmacists.
Yeah, it was, that sometimes like the thing is with pharmacy school, if there are too many pharmacy schools in a state, it can easily saturate the state, especially in a metropolitan area. Like if it's like Houston, everybody's going to want to be in Houston, not going to want to be in some random, I don't know,
Lubbock.
Abilene or exactly Lubbock or something like that. So it gets tighter. But then, yeah, there was opportunities in Dallas, which ended up working because Dallas was a great city to start comedy, and they had like 6 clubs at the time. Yeah, there was like 3 Hyenas, 2 Improvs, the Dallas Comedy House, Backdoor Comedy Club.
At first, it
7.
sounded like that Christmas song, like 3 hyenas, 2 improvs.
Yeah. So then it was like that, and then it was a good time. Started out there, started climbing the ranks, but then when you work in those cities, you start to realize that it's like you can kind of hit the ceiling pretty quick.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like once you start featuring at those clubs, it's like, then where else from now? So then that's when I decided to move in LA, and here we are.
But did you have to start, like, so I came via, I went to Minneapolis, then I went to Chicago, then I came from Chicago to LA.
Where did you start?
Doing stand-up? Because I was doing improv and sketch in college.
Okay.
And then I started doing that in Minneapolis, also started doing storytelling in Minneapolis, then started doing all of it.
Good comedy town.
Yeah, oh yeah. Minneapolis is great, then started doing all of those things in Chicago.
Dope.
And that parlayed pretty easily into LA. But my feeling was when I came from Chicago to LA, nothing I did before mattered according to the people that lived here.
Right.
Everyone in LA was just like, I was like, hey, so like, I used to perform in Second City 6 nights a week. And like, then I would run and go do mics, like, hey. And they would be like, cool, nobody cares.
You're right.
I was like, oh.
It was one of those vast realizations because before I moved from Dallas, there was always this feeling of like whenever you move, you're going to have to restart. You kind of knew it in the back of your head. But one of the first times I realized it was like because I started like getting spots at the Improvs at the Addison in Arlington in Texas. And then when I moved here, I was like, hey, so, Theo over at the Improv, he knows me. So who do I tell here? And then there was Nicole. She was running the mic at the Improv at the time. And she was oh, you send this email. And then that's even nicer than what most people would have done. I sent the email. They're just like, essentially what the email sent back was like, yeah, nobody cares what you were doing.
Was the email that mean?
That was the heart of the email. It wasn't that mean, but it was essentially like, we have people already or some stuff like that. It doesn't matter. And then that's kind of like what I knew. Is probably, I think it's better that I heard it that way. But it's like, you just kind of knew that it's like, you got to prove yourself all over again, which is why you don't want to stay in the other town forever, Well,
that's why I always find it interesting when like you meet people who are like, there's some incredible comedy cities that don't get a lot of love. So like Portland, for example, right? It's a great comedy city, man. And the people there are so nice and so cool. Denver is starting to come up as like one of the primaries.
Denver's
but like
great. Comedy Works out there is insane.
Yeah, Comedy Works, Comedy Fort, all that stuff over there. And like those things are great, but if you do want to write for television, like, be on TV, all this other stuff, eventually you have to go to one of LA or New York.
Right.
And when you go there, you start at 0.
Right. 0.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's heart-wrenching, but like at the same time, that's why you never want to overdevelop in those other cities. You don't want to get to the point where like you're headlining at places to where now it's like you can't take the hit of having to restart in a new city. Because people, there are people like that I know from Dallas. It's like, these people are hilarious and they're great. And it's like, but they're used to being a headliner in Dallas now. And they're used to getting some road work and stuff like that. So why are they going to come and start waiting for a bucket or a rig bucket mic at some club just to sit somewhere 3 hours and not get up and just to eventually just wait, just trying to get somebody to listen? It's frustrating. Like Marty's like going there doing comedy in front of one 60-something-year-old dude who's literally playing a piano and listening to it on his headphones while you're trying to perform to him. You go through something like that, then it's like you get to a mic or you get to a show and like some people aren't giving you the energy you feel like you deserve. I'm like, I don't care. I had to prove it to this guy that was not even paying attention to me, you know?
I mean, yeah, like I remember. Did you ever do Venador Cafe?
I don't think so.
Oh man,
Where was it at?
Boy, it was in Hollywood in like a strip mall on.
Nice.
I can't remember what street it was on, but I think it might have been Santa Monica. But I used to go there, and there would just be people. There are places and moments where I make the joke that like audiences are being assaulted by comedy.
Oh, yeah.
So like when like I came in to get a coffee and now I'm dealing with this shit.
Oh
Are you kidding
yeah,
me?
those type of shows. Oh,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like this was a mic that would happen
It's
at
almost like flash comedy, like it just.
yeah. Flash mobs telling jokes.
Yeah.
It was it was like at 4 p.m. And no one wants to hear that. I remember one time we were doing the mic and Paul Reiser walked in. Like, do you know Paul Reiser?
I know Paul Reiser is mad about you.
Yeah, who was also a famous stand-up comic.
Yeah.
Comes in and one of the people goes, "Do you want to come up?" And he looks and goes, "No." And I was like, "You're right, Mr.
Was he
Reiser."
there for he was there for the scones.
He was just there to get a cup of coffee. And I was like, Paul Reiser
Perfect.
is not going to perform at Venador Cafe.
Perfect.
No offense, Venador.
His quick comeback is for Venador Cafe.
Yeah, he's like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, and little did I know he was probably filming Stranger Things at this point. And then he looked at this place and he goes, now this is a strange thing.
Right.
You know?
Insane.
But it was just like, yeah, stuff like that. I'm just like, man, once you've been to places like that, then you go up to the improv mic and you're like, I don't care.
Yeah. It's like okay, they're not filming. I'll live through it. You're still not happy about it, but
No.
the way it would crush you before, like if that guy whose agent sent him to do a mic went to places like Marty's and stuff, like they might have to drive. They'd be back in Nebraska or something.
Yeah,
like
they'd be
that.
flayed alive at those places.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Insane.
Wait, okay, so when you started doing this stuff in Dallas, were you at what point did you kind of think to yourself like career-wise, I believe that comedy is my calling and pharmacology is not?
The pharmacology, I already knew that was in my calling freshman year pharmacy school.
But you still went through 6 years of it.
I'm Nigerian. This is what we do.
Dear God.
Yeah. So we don't quit. That doesn't make sense.
Oh, I love quitting. Top 10 favorite things. Yeah.
But then the pharmacy thing, the comedy thing, I remember it was in Dallas. I'd been doing it for a few years. I did this the funniest comic in Dallas competition.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I made it past however many rounds to like, I think it was semifinals, something like that. And then I saw some of the guys that had beaten me and they went on to win. And this one guy. And then I remember he stayed in Dallas. But then I remember also, it was one of those comedy competitions that was like, don't get me wrong, you could be funny enough to win, but it was also one of those that's like, be funny enough to win, but also have X amount of people come in to vote for you.
Oh, yeah, it's
also,
a bringer show.
Yeah. Also, maybe have some relationships with certain people might help out.
Yeah.
And then I just remember thinking when I didn't make it to the end or didn't win, and not that I deserved to beat this guy. This guy was funny. But I just remember thinking, okay, he beat me and I'm in semifinals, and then we're both just here in Dallas. And what does it all mean? Because it's like I saw him win, but I didn't see his life change significantly.
No.
Like he was still doing some of the same stuff I was doing. And that's when the ceiling really came into my forefront. So that I remember when I lost that day on the at the competition, I immediately went home and then I started filling out the application to do the pharmacy boards in California.
That day?
Yeah, that day. Because I remember thinking, he won, but at the same time, we're still both here. So what's stopping me from moving forward? Like, what's holding me back? Fear? Yeah, but it's like, am I going to be... Fear isn't something that you're going to think about like on your deathbed. You're going to think about what you didn't do. And I'm not going to let what I didn't do be held back by something like that. So filled out the application that day, started studying for the test for the California pharmacy boards, took it a few months later. And then it was like, I remember the competition was in November and I had moved to LA and I had passed my boards by June. Oh no, by March. I passed my boards by March. I moved to LA by June. So yeah, it was just one of those things. It was like it was a realization that like, and that's really a lot of how I've been living my life lately. Like, I'd love to, yeah, I can make a lot more money doing pharmacy at this point in my comedy career, and I could do other stuff, climb the corporate ladder. But the worst day in comedy has always been the better than the best day in pharmacy for me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that.
Yeah, so it's like the worst day working at the store or whatever, where somebody is like yelling at you over some nonsense, or you have to clean up puke because somebody drank too much. And I'm just thinking about that. I'm still laughing while cleaning up the puke, but then the best day in pharmacy is just like, yeah, I had fewer people yell at me today, or fewer people get on my ass, or not as many annoying calls come in. So that's when it just came to me that it's just like, I just got to do what I want to do with my life, not necessarily what I feel other people want me to do.
Well, I mean, I completely agree with all that. And given where you are now, are there things that you think about? Because you gave an interesting framing of like, on my deathbed, what are the things I'm going to think about? Are there things now that you still have in your mind of like, I don't want to think this on my deathbed, therefore?
Oh, for sure. For sure. A lot of it is comedy related. Like, a lot of it is like tied into material and ideas that I want to do. But being in a
Interesting.
city that's like as progressive as LA, I feel like I have to hold my cards closer to my chest.
Really? Why
Yeah.
is that?
Because the thing is, LA is progressive in idea, in theory, but in practicality, a lot of people aren't progressive when their views are being challenged. Because it's like
Interesting.
they're progressive in terms of like, everybody should be everything, and everybody should accept everything, be tolerant of everything, be accepting of everything. But what they neglect to realize sometimes, they're like, yeah, you can say that, but it's essentially a stance that takes no stance at all, because
Sure.
a lot of times these two parties have opposing ideas, and you just saying everybody can be everything doesn't change that. It really just is you turning your back on it. So that's where a lot of what's funny to me comes about, because of how I grew up and where I'm from. So then when those ideas come into play in my mind, like, I want to bring it up as my natural instinct. And Nigerian comedy can be very and not that I did comedy in Nigeria, but a lot of my sensibility is Nigerian because that's where I was raised and stuff. But Nigerian humor is very harsh, but that's bred from the nature of the lives that we lead. It's like, when you live somewhere that like life is so cheap, like people can die so quickly from such stuff that is so marginal in a first world society, you either have two options. You can cry about it or you can laugh about it. Now, I made my decision a long time ago. And then that can be jarring to people, because it's like, when you talk about things, whether it be murder or like religious beliefs, or like, different issues that people hold dear to them, they'll say they're tolerant, but when it's being challenged, they're not all of a sudden not tolerant. And you'll see sometimes, like, when I want to talk about something, not even necessarily in a bad way, they'll hear a trigger word, and you can see the people in the audience, they hear the trigger word, and then once they hear the trigger word, if the next few words aren't to immediately just be like, I love this thing, or I'm with this guy, I'm with y'all, you guys are my favorite. And if it's not that, then you immediately see, oh, this guy is just a rogue. He doesn't care about our feelings or beliefs. And it's not necessarily that, but it's just more seeing a different view than what you might see, and being raised in a different culture. Because a lot of times the culture is the key to how we feel about a lot of things. And because Americans don't travel as much as people from other countries,
It's true.
they don't understand that. And so they just see it, no, but we feel this way. And this is how the world feels, right? Because the world starts at Hawaii and ends at at Florida. It's like, that's how you guys feel, right? And then it's not necessarily the case, but
Everything ends in Florida. but,
exactly, everything ends.
Well, is there, and I'm not trying to make you tell one of your own jokes, but is there an example of a topic or something that you brought up that you immediately felt yourself having to pull back in a room because you're like, this room isn't ready for this?
Right. Like, whenever I do bits about death and murder,
Interesting.
you see it immediately, because, like I said, life can be very cheap in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a bit like about how I saw this person shot on the way to school. Person died. And then it was a bit about how that's not that big a deal in Nigeria. That's like I still go about the rest of my day. In fact, that is a low light in a lot of ways, to paraphrase a bit. But you see it in Americans' faces. Like once you hear somebody was shot, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, they live like this? How can they?
Is he okay?
Is he okay?" It's like they can't get past the trauma, which I guess it technically should be traumatizing. But the thing is, like, if you live in a world of chronic trauma,
Yeah.
then your threshold for trauma goes up. And then what is traumatic to you is not what's traumatic to me. And that's what's funny to me, because it's like, you're still stuck on this dead bit, but I'm still talking about this math class I couldn't get past. And that's what was hard for me. The guy dying, I see that all the time. But this geometry question, how do you answer this? That type of thing.
Yeah, I used to tell a joke. I mean, well, maybe I'll bring it back one day, but I used to tell a joke about how I was looking for a really good bagel in San Francisco. And
I love you went to bagel.
yeah, I was looking for a really good bagel. And then someone said the best bagels in San Francisco were at the San Francisco Holocaust Memorial. And it turns out it wasn't very good. And I'm talking about the kind of dissonance in my brain of being like, understood that this is a tragedy, but this is a tragedy.
This is also a tragedy.
Like, this is. I'm not over what happened to my left, but what's happening in front of me is devastating.
It's a problem, and this is actually more recent in my mind, if I'm being honest.
I walked a mile and a half for this thing.
Yeah.
I am upset. Yeah, I think it's tough. I think that a lot of times the other trick with audiences, in my experience, is that people will take on your traumas for you.
Right.
And I'm like, no.
Right.
No. Like, I was talking about how I got in a really bad car accident on stage, and a bunch of people are like, oh, no. I heard someone in the audience go, oh, no.
Oh, no.
I was like, were you in the car?
Are you okay?
Yeah, were you? Because I didn't see you there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I walked out alive. It seems like maybe you got badly hurt because you're reacting like I'm your best friend. You don't know me,
and you're not gonna remember this after.
No,
but you're gonna be like fake empathetic in the moment, and that's really what it is at the core of it. That is frustrating, because it's like yeah, it's almost like they love the idea of being upset by other people's problems, but in reality, as soon as you leave those doors, they're not gonna remember that.
No one's gonna remember. They're gonna be like, hey, that big-eared guy, I liked him, and I'll be like, well, I have a name, but
exactly.
I am glad you liked me.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like stuff like that is funny to me, and like I said, Nigerian I watch Nigerian stuff sometimes, like the stuff I'm talking about, peanuts compared to like what some of the Nigerian comics are, like very hardcore issues that they talk about. But once again, it's bred from the society. It's bred, like, what's real to us is, it can be very harsh, but that's because we grew up very harsh. We grew up in this almost like, you kind of have to, Nigeria, first off, is like the most populated country in Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then I come from Lagos, which is like the most populated city in Africa. If
It
I'm
has to be,
correct.
'cause it's one I've heard of.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. And then, so because of that, it makes for a lot of situations to where, if it's almost like, how like a dog will have like 10 puppies, right?
Sure.
Right.
So curious where this is going. Yeah.
They'll have 10 puppies and like 8 teats. And then they'll be like, if you don't get in there, you're just going to kind of, fall off and die. That's just the way it is. So a lot of that energy is like bred into Nigerian culture, to where it's like, sometimes people think I'm being aggressive when I'm really not, but it's just this edge of like, I gotta get to where I need to get to.
You gotta get in the mix.
Yeah, and then it's just from being around a billion people, however many in Nigeria, it's not a billion, but a lot. Being around so many people, you just kind of get this edge to where it's like, there's a certain, if you don't get to it, then you're gonna get left behind.
It's so funny because there's an opposite belief in Australia, which is they have something called tall poppy syndrome.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
So it's the same idea for those listening. It essentially is like, you don't want to stand too far above the fray of anybody else.
Right,
you don't want to pull too much attention to yourself. So you want to blend in with everyone. On your spectrum, which I think I probably relate to a little more yours than theirs, which is a little bit like, hey, I'm not saying you need to stand above the pack, but if you don't, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Right.
If you don't get in there and make your situation known, then you're out.
You get left behind. The tall poppy syndrome thing is funny to me. There's this show called Koala Man. I don't know if you watched it.
Koala Man?
It's on Hulu. It's very dumb, but also makes me laugh a lot. And it's just like...
Is it animated?
Yes, animated.
Yeah.
And he's like a guy. He's just a regular guy, but he thinks he's a superhero with koala powers. And it's funny just because he brings up the tall poppy syndrome thing. And then just even the heroes are not supposed to be that high status.
So funny.
They're still supposed to be, hey, I'm a hero, but I stop at a stoplight like everybody else. I'm not one of these tall poppies.
Yeah, I don't want to stand out.
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
I feel like this is as good as times any to go to our lightning round, to our newly friend game. You ready for it? So the first segment is called the Newly Friend Game. It's like the Newlywed Game, but we're friends. Listen, if we got married in Nigeria, I don't even know if it would carry over here. I don't know what the laws are in terms
Illegal.
of it. Yeah, I don't know. I found out the other day because my fiance and I were talking about getting married abroad, and they were like, "You're actually going to need to also get married in the U.S." And I'm like,
really?
And I was like, okay. And they were like, "We just need you to know." I'm like, I figured that.
Yeah,
I was like, this is not. I love that we're really having a big conversation. But this is a wedding planner. I'm like, I gotcha.
Pretty obvious.
Anywho, okay. So the way this works, I'm going to ask you a question. You have a whiteboard right there. You're going to write down your answer. I'm going to write down what I think your answer is, and we will flip our boards and see if we have the same answer. And then we will do the same or different question for me. Now, I alluded to this a little earlier. We talked about this off mic. You are probably one of my tallest friends.
Right.
So my question for you is going to be, and don't say it out loud, but write it down. What is your favorite thing? Not your least favorite. What is your favorite thing about being, what'd you say you were 6'6"?
6'6".
Michael Jordan.
Yes,
What is
sir.
your favorite thing about being
Michael Jordan?
About being tall.
Okay.
Don't tell me. Write it down. I'm going to see if I can get this right. Oh, you already wrote your answer. You're already good. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this. So I put no.
A sentence or a word?
No, it's a word. It's a word.
All right.
I put a second. I'm not going to give myself points if I get the second one, but I feel like it's also pretty good. So I have a first and a second. Yeah. Okay, so flip your board on 3. 1, 2, 3. Flip chicks. You're right. I'm wrong. Viewing. I said concert viewing or spotting friends.
Spotting friends. Those
you know
are
what I mean?
more
like when you're in
altruistic.
A party, you know when you're at like a party and you know if you're taller, I feel like you could be like, oh, there's Devin. You know, like you can do that.
It definitely works. That's actually an advantage I failed to remember, but it definitely is something that I've had for so long that is definitely like right there. Yeah, I've never had to look for people like that.
Here's my feeling about the height thing with chicks, and I might be wrong because I'm a lowly 5'10", but I feel like aren't there some women that go, oh, that's too tall?
Yes, there definitely are. There's some women that it's like almost like, oh, it's a fantasy. Like this would be nice to try, but I'm not gonna deal with this on a daily basis. And to be fair with me too, it's like there's some women that are like, I feel like I had more patience for it when I was younger, but now when women are too short, I just can't hear you. I just like literally sometimes like if you're out at a club or something, they have to shout up at me to.
And you're just like leaning you're hurting your back to try and make a conversation.
I'm trying to keep my posture on point, so it's like I'll constantly have to be like, huh, what? At a certain point, it's just like, yo, I don't think we can make it to the end of this road. I don't think it's gonna work out between you.
I mean, like, what is the shortest height that you would be willing to be in a longer term relationship with? It cannot be less than 5'6". It can't be less than a foot.
I had my ex. She was 5'4", and I think that's it. That's
5'4" was not too short.
But she was a great person, so it's like it made up for it.
I love that. She was. I don't know her name. I'm saying X. You were great. We all loved you. She was 5'4", because that's a foot and 2 inches. I mean, that's a 14-inch difference.
Yeah,
that's substantial.
It is very substantial, 14 inches. But yeah, in terms of now, I don't know, my patience. I just can't. Like, I don't know, maybe she was one of those like a herald where you could throw your voice without having to yell. And I could hear you from afar, and you don't have to be yelling at me.
She was good at projecting. She projected her voice.
Great at projecting. You know those people that can be loud without being loud? That I can maybe do, but 5'4", but I honestly, I prefer 5'6" and up.
Interesting.
And I prefer taller.
I mean, are you single? If you're listening, I
am single.
Yeah.
AJ
Straight on the barrel.
Faji.
What a handsome guy. Also, can we? For those that
you,
are
Josh.
listening and not watching, very handsome guy. I think very traditionally handsome. Okay, for me, we'll do a similar but different question. I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to say, what do I think? So this is about what I think. You're going to have to see if you can get what I'm thinking. What do I think is the worst thing about being tall? And I'm not going to write something basic like airplanes. I have a very specific thought.
Okay.
and don't and write it down. Don't say it out loud.
I won't put airplanes either, but that's normally what I put.
I understand, but I think there's one thing that is worse than airplanes about being tall. And I'm gonna write. Yeah. Okay. I got it. Okay. I'm feeling good that yours is also you're writing a lot, and I wrote a lot, so I feel like that could be a good sign. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Flip your board on 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, wow. Yours is really deep. You wrote failed expectations very deep.
Yeah.
I wrote responsible for killing bugs in high places.
Very different. Very different.
Yeah, so different. Because what's interesting is like what made me think about it is right outside of my front door, very high, way beyond where I can reach. I'm, again, lowly 5'10". Right, way above where I can reach are 2 spiders.
Aye.
Now, I'm not trying to kill spiders. Like, if they're staying away from me, I'm staying away from them unless they're legit, like, in my bedroom, at which case, like, game set
time,
match, you're out the door. But like there was one time where we were like walking and my fiance was just like, hey, are you gonna kill that? And I was like, with what stool?
Outside?
I can't reach that. No, it was inside, but I was like, I can't reach that. It was like on the ceiling. I'm like, how tall do you think? I can't do that. Whereas if you're really tall, then everyone's just like, hey, Faji, can you come? And you're like, I don't want to do that.
That does happen a lot.
Right?
That does happen a lot.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah. That does happen a lot. I feel like outside, making you kill a spider outside. That's
you don't
want
to kill. It's in their home.
Yeah. When in the house, that's in play. But going outside and all of a sudden you're exterminator outside, that's a bit much.
I mean, like if you're at the store, is anyone ever like, hey, there's a thing up there you gotta, or like there's a cobweb, can you sweep that away?
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's an extra job that none of the short people have to deal with.
It's a pain, and it's the pain. You know, because I put failed expectations, but the other thing I was thinking about.
Oh, you better believe we're gonna follow up on failed expectations.
Oh yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah. The deepest thing that's been said on this pod so far. Yeah.
But it's like sometimes it's like I'll meet people that I generally want to be friendly with, or people that I like.
Yeah.
But some people have some trauma or something that happened with them and tall people in their past to where there's this guard up.
Seriously?
To where, like, and it's usually guys. It's very rarely women. But it's like this energy to where it's like, wow, so you're tall, huh? And like, it's like you need to prove you're a nice guy now as opposed to just existing as a regular person. It definitely happened. It's one of those things that, like, it's hard to explain, but it's always this look some guys give you. And it's always this, or it's usually, or if they see a woman that they like looking at you in a certain way, look at this guy, he thinks because he's tall, he can just walk up in here and talk to Bianca or whoever.
I mean, listen, I don't know this fictional Bianca. I like her already, and I am upset that she's not looking at me.
Yeah.
But I do think, sometimes I think about that where it's like, these gentlemen in this hypothetical situation, right? They like Bianca, and they think Bianca likes them. And then Bianca talks to you. They're getting mad at you,
right?
Or Bianca, when in reality, this girl wasn't right for you.
Yeah.
If she's interested in this taller gentleman 5 feet from you, this wasn't going to work for you anyway.
Right. And also, if you're interested in her, go talk to her. Don't be worried about how she's reacting to me. You're a man. You need to set your path in this world. Go and make it happen.
Yeah, go talk to her and be like, hey, you know what? What I lack in height, I make up for in personality.
And gumption.
Yeah. I have a lot of gumption.
Yeah. That's a word we don't use as much anymore. I feel like we need to bring it back.
I think mark it and print it. I will start using gumption.
Gumption. Have some gumption, guys.
Yeah, get out there and do it. What I used to tell people all the time is that I would go up to people way out of my league, and half the time the only reason I think that they would go on dates with me is because they were like so surprised because no one else was talking to them.
And that's a beautiful thing. It's the element of surprise, especially like if the girl feels like you're out of your league and you come and talk to them with a confidence as though that is something that didn't even occur to you, she's going to react to that, and she's going to wonder, why does this guy believe in himself so much that it's making me believe in him? You see what I'm saying?
That's why every time I'm at the store, I go right up to Mark Maron and I'm like, it's so funny, you and I are both here.
Yeah,
you know?
It's crazy.
What are we doing here together?
Yeah, man. So anyway, my podcast, we drink tea. You want to come in?
I'm like, well, listen, WTF, why haven't you come here? You know what I mean? You should be filming here. And then he regularly goes, why are you near me? And then that's kind of the end of our conversation.
Who are you? Security.
Yeah. Do you ever go up to the guys when you're at the store and just like right up with the confidence, be like, yo, what's good?
Sometimes, but it's more like I like, once again, because like I said, that look is not relegated to people that are below you.
You're telling me that famous comics give you the look?
Because you have to understand the thinking of a comic, and a very good comic. A lot of these people are people that became funny because they were looked over by other people. They were downtrodden. Nobody gave them a shot. They maybe felt like the jock or something, got way more play than them. Like, I'm going to figure out a way that people are going to care about what I have to say. And just because you become a famous comic, a lot of that insecurity doesn't necessarily just fall off of you. A lot of it sticks with you. And then it will often resurface whenever you're put in a situation to where you feel like a guy is lording over you when he's actually just trying to have good posture because he has sciatic pain.
Yeah. You're like,
it's like,
I'm this tall because my back's killing me.
My back hurts when I stand otherwise.
Jeez.
So yeah, there's like, don't get me wrong, the converse is also true. There are people that are short that it's like, you wouldn't even know that they're 5'4" because their personality is that big and they're so comfortable. They're so comfortable in who they are. They move around. They move around with an air that they're positive, and it doesn't even register. So whereas like I'm trying to learn stuff from you.
Yeah.
So it's like the two sides are possible, but it's just sometimes that other guy just. I don't know.
Yeah, he's like, you're big dogging me. You're like, literally just, I'm standing
literally,
here.
It's my job to stand right here.
Yeah. It's my job. They tell me not to let people in, and I let you in. What else can I do for you?
I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
By the way, you can put the board down. We're done with that section, but I am going to call out from what you wrote on the board. Failed expectations.
Failed expectations.
So I'm dying to know more about that, especially because it sounds like a lot of these comics that are thinking you're big dogging them may have failed on their expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
So like the thing is with being tall is that, and I like my height.
I think it fits you.
Yeah, thank you. It fits me.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Like
it
I
suits
said
you. Your height, the thing you are suits you.
Yeah, I love when people say that to me. They're like, "Oh, I like your features. They suit you." I'm like, a big nose and big ears. What would I look like if I had smaller versions of those? I think I would look very handsome.
Oh, I think you're a handsome guy.
Oh, I think I'm handsome
too. Got a
too.
beautiful lady over there. I saw her on the piano.
Oh yeah. You know, she's a beautiful gal. I'm very lucky. Yes. I don't not think I'm handsome, but I do love when people are like, "Oh, those big ears suit you," and I'm like, "Well, slightly smaller ears would have suited me too."
They would suit me a little bit.
Would have loved that.
If I didn't have to deal with all the beatings and the prankings. And
Every single comment on YouTube is like, "Wow, this guy probably can hear someone sneeze 6 miles away." And I was like, honestly, I can, and just like do it into your sleeve.
Do you have good hearing?
No.
Oh, that is such a fuck.
Yeah, I know.
That is so.
It's because I used to be in a band. I lost a little bit of my hearing.
Yeah, you said that about the band. What did you play?
I was on guitar and vocals.
Okay, nice.
So, okay, wait. Go back to failed expectations. I want to know.
So like, when you're tall, one of the benefits, but also it can be a negative in a way, is that sometimes a lot of people assume like you should, have accomplished so much more, to where it's like,
because you're tall?
Yeah, because when you're tall, because people assume like whether it be you should be a pro ball player or you should be a statesman or a politician or stuff like that. Because people because there's that stat that goes around to where tall people get more respect, which is
that's a stat?
It's a stat. Like I don't know how they measured it, but it's a stat that they found that it's like people over a certain height get X amount more respect. I don't know if it was one of those subjective studies that they do.
I'm blaming everything from now on.
There
the
you
fact
go.
That I'm not over 6 feet.
Yeah, and then if you do the research and stuff, you find out that there's been no president under 6 feet. It's like these things are like.
Is that true?
It's true. It's something like I think the shortest one might be 6 feet, but I don't think there's
I was taller than Biden. Maybe I'm not.
Maybe I don't know.
I'm only 5'10".
I mean, he might have been there, then shrunk.
Yeah. Shrunk a little. Yeah,
pretty long in the tooth.
He's been through the wash a few times.
Yeah. So then sometimes it can be frustrating because no matter how much you accomplish, people still be like, "I mean, but you're tall. Why aren't you a president by now? Why aren't you a politician?" It's that vibe of where you could do great things, but people still think there should be more. You should have done more. So sometimes that can be.
That is insane.
Yeah, but that in terms of like the pro versus the con of being tall, like it's a pretty small one compared to all the positives.
I guess this is a weird question.
Mm-hmm.
Do your parents feel that way? Do you feel that from your parents sometimes? That like
but that's because I'm Nigerian, not because I'm tall.
Oh, okay. so Nigerians and Jews have the same thing.
Yeah. Like with Nigerians, it's like, oh, well, you became a doctor of pharmacy, but you could have done doctor of pharmacy and done an MBA on top of that. There's always more. There's always more you could have done. Like it's like.
I mean, come on.
The first time my mom told me she was proud was when I had graduated from pharmacy school. I was like 25, like that.
The first time.
Yeah, because that's just just the way Nigerian parents, it's like that tiger mom thing. I totally relate to that. It's like they're not gonna, like, if you get a 3.8, it's gonna be, why wasn't it a 4.0? Why didn't you get all the way? What is that? It's a negative marking system, never positive.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you want to have kids?
Yeah.
When you are a parent, do you think you are going to bring the opposite energy?
No, because at the same time, once again, from the dog with the teats analogy from earlier,
Yeah.
the puppies, it's like growing up in Nigeria, growing up black man in America, like there's a lot of things that where if you're not on your A game, you're gonna get left behind. You're gonna the stakes aren't necessarily going to be the same for you as with other people. So it's like whoever I breed with is going to be at least...
What a word choice.
Yeah, I know, right? It's going to at least be partly black. So on some level, they're going to need to understand that. Now, I would hope that my kids, my future kids, would understand that it's coming from a place of love, that knowing that you just kind of have to excel sometimes for people to see you and see your worth. Not necessarily because you're not worth to me. I'm just letting you know ahead of time because I want you to learn this at home, not for you to have to learn it out on the street in the real world.
Yeah, I think there's always that balance of like wanting to convey your work ethic and you know the need to strive to want more for yourself, with also making sure that you know your offspring know like, hey, you are consistently and unconditionally loved.
Amen.
And reach for the stars.
Exactly, got to shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
That being said, my dad like worked crazy hours, get up at 7, come back at 2 in the morning. I'm not doing that. I'm
no,
like,
as well you should.
I'm like bullshitting with comedy.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like it might get watered down a little bit to what they did, but
like listen, Dad had to network for 4
exactly.
hours
He
tonight.
had to get it to where I could tell you these dick jokes on stage. So now it's like it's better now. I don't think I'll be that intense, but there is gonna be a certain level of you got to get it.
Yeah, Dad got a 5-minute drop in the belly room. Okay?
Exactly.
It was important.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's as good a time as any to go to the lightning round. Are you ready for it?
Let's do it.
So the lightning round is 5 fast questions. They do not at all have to be fast answers. This is what we end every episode with. And I use an index card because it makes me feel like a late night talk show host.
Nice.
I feel like I'd be good. You know, it's like
Have you ever had dreams of being a late night show, talk show?
I feel like I would really enjoy it. I really enjoy talking to people. One of the reasons I started a podcast is because I genuinely just like enjoy having the opportunity to hang out with people.
Dope.
You know, and just making real connections. I think a lot of people reserve.
I feel like it comes through.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people reserve like podcasts for doing bits, and bits are fun, and we've done some.
Yeah.
But like, I also want to get to know people,
Right?
You know, just so when I see you, I mean, I already feel comfortable around you, but when I see you next time, I could just be like, hey, you know, like, how is this going? And have you seen your mom back in
How are
Houston
those rats
recently?
in
And
the
like,
toes?
yeah, how are the bush rats?
Yeah.
Okay, question 1: what is a favorite ritual of yours? So, for example, I like to brew tea every morning.
Yoga. I would say that's.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I'm big into yoga. Started doing it because like tall guy back problems. All the
Classic
stuff we
back
mentioned.
problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then, but in terms of like a thing to where I can be, it's strenuous and tedious and difficult, but also understanding on some level, it's just a practice. You're never trying to get somewhere. You're just trying to constantly work on your process of practicing. So that is a nice way to like, I want to say, center me and help me relax and know that whatever you're worried about, whatever you're upset about, doesn't necessarily need to change your energy. Just you decide what energy you want to have in the world. So it's a nice way to like get a lot of that frustration that comes with doing comedy and being a comedian day to day out of me, but also a nice way to get it out in an exercise. So that's one for me.
Yeah, I love that. How often do you do it?
I try and go 3-4 times a week.
Oh, that's
I
great.
try and work out and do other stuff too.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
All right, question 2. What is a running bit you have with a friend or partner that makes you laugh?
I have a bunch of Ghanaian friends.
Okay.
So, like I said, African humor is very harsh. It can be very hard.
Yeah.
So one of the main things we do when we see each other, like, and these are guys that I've been friends with since college, and then we get each other, and then my group of college friends, like, I didn't have many pharmacy friends because there wasn't that many people like me in the school of pharmacy at Drake.
Okay.
Yeah, but there was a bunch of people outside. So, like, our group is very multicultural. So Ghanaians, Filipino guy, black guy, white guys. So anyway, but with the Ghanaians specifically, when we see each other, we immediately start ragging on each other about whose country is shittier. So that's the first thing. Is like, you guys don't have milk in your country's shit. They'd be like, oh, I remember one time my boy, he got me good because it's like, we were at some beach. It was one of a vacation we went on, and it was like some multi-colored drink or something he had. Then he stood up in front of everybody. He was like, "This is what breast milk looks like in Nigeria." That's like the type of humor we have with each other. We immediately go at each other's heads. So if it's somebody outside looking in, like, these guys hate each other, they're racist. They can't stand each. But this is like, and then now he's like, okay, he got me good this time. So on the next trip, I need to figure out something even better to burn him with. And then, it just goes on for years and years. And then it makes us closer, but also makes it look like we hate each other more and more.
Well, I'm shocked you're like not taking time away from comedy to just be like, okay, I got to get some good bits on Ghana.
Yes, I won't say I'm not.
Yeah. You're sitting in the back of the improv just writing Ghana material.
Like, hey,
what are you doing? You're like,
what can I say about these dirty motherfuckers this time?
No comment. Question 3, what is your most or one of your most controversial opinions?
You know how women say, like, most guys are bad at sex, right?
I hope they do. They say that?
Well, I mean,
I'm getting hot here.
Not maybe that's a bad way to frame it. Let's say, or like some women say that or at least what seems to me, some women say that the average guy is bad at sex, or like the guy that they just met bad at sex. Yeah. So then, for me, thinking statistically, if a guy is good at sex, should he have less parameters placed on him to be monogamous?
Oh, I didn't see
because
where you were going.
Is he not doing a philanthropical service for the female community by keeping his penis on the streets? In fact, will it not behoove that woman and such women around him to let him run free in the wild?
Who is the one that decides whether he is good or not?
No, he doesn't decide it. Women decide it.
Okay, so this hypothetical guy, he sleeps with a woman. Mm-hmm. This woman independently goes, I think that he is good at what he does.
Yes.
Then does she then ring up another 5 women that have been with this guy and they come to a consensus?
But you see, this is where the problem is, and this is where it's controversial, because that woman is usually selfish and it's like, I need to keep that penis to me. Instead of saying that he should go out and continue to spread joy to womankind.
So essentially, we're saying that non-monogamy for men that are good in the bedroom is a philanthropic
It is
service.
a philanthropic service. It's altruistic. And it is also should be, I don't know if awarded or like it's something
rewarded.
Rewarded. It should be rewarded. And then these guys, these select few, should be able to not be held to the constraints of normal society and be able to run free, spreading joy across the plains of America.
This reminds me of this is what do they call it? Studs in horse racing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of that.
It's that.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to ask if you consider yourself a thoroughbred, but it's we'll leave that for off the mic. This is my favorite so far. Question 4. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, is there one moment that really sticks with you?
I mean, rather than just go the comedic route, which I think every decent comic should have it in some form or fashion, because if you don't, I feel like that means you're not questioning yourself. I feel like you should always be not necessarily doubting yourself, but you should be assessing and reassessing your abilities in order to improve and grow. But something outside of comedy, that can happen sometimes with being African in America and being like black. It's just like, it's this weird, like I've lived in America more than I've lived in Nigeria at this point.
Yeah.
And, I am a black person in America. And a lot of my friends, the circles, my culture is black American culture. But sometimes because you have this other place that you were raised and see the world differently than the people around you, you will often feel like an imposter, because you feel like, obviously, black people have such pain in this country and such things that they have to deal with. And I deal with these things too because I'm black in America. But sometimes having that foot in another world allows me to not feel as downtrodden by it, because there's never been a point where I've thought I was lesser than because I'm black. But if you've been here your whole life, you might feel that way, because a lot of institutions and places and things and culture make you feel that way, and you don't have that outside view of it to be able to see something different. So sometimes I will feel imposter, because it's almost like I'm living the same struggle, I'm going through the same toil, but I have a different mindset about it. So sometimes I feel like it's almost like I don't deserve the right to claim that toil, because I have almost like a parachute out of it, or like a get out of jail free card I can always go back to or think back on. Something that I just think about sometimes.
Does that ever come externally to you, or is that something that is an internal turmoil?
It can be both. It can be both, just because like it's an internal thing for the reason I just discussed, but sometimes it can be external, because you have people, and often a lot of times it's always on both sides. Like it's like Africans that don't trust Black Americans, or Black Americans that don't trust Africans, or think that, oh, their struggle is easier, or his struggle is easier. It's usually people that just don't know. They're ignorant, to be honest, because when you live either side, you can see the pain, the struggle, the toil on either side. So the people that on the Black American side that don't get that can be the ones to come at you like that and that type of thing. But then at the same time, you meet people that are in the know, that understand different cultures, different socioeconomic structures and things like that. And they'll be like, that's ridiculous to think that. And in separating us like that is like, it's more feathers in the cap of people trying to make things harder for each side, honestly, not the other way around. So
yeah, I think sometimes it like supports the groups that want to oppress either side when they're turning against each other.
It's that whole thing of like separate and like divide and conquer. It's like you say, oh, you're different from this person, you're different from this person, when in reality it's just like, it's almost like cousins, you grew up in different places, but you share a similar ancestry, a similar struggle, a similar path. So trying to separate yourself like that is a discredit to both of you, not helping one more than the other.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal answer. My final question for you, what is your favorite tea? And if you're not a big tea drinker, what is your favorite comfort?
I already said working out. That helps calm me and makes me feel less frustrated. But comfort, like something I indulge, I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's ice cream. So,
ice cream? Well, yeah, ice cream. I love ice cream.
You love ice cream?
Yeah, I love ice cream. White chocolate macadamia. I just got off the phone talking to somebody about this.
Where is that flavor?
It was Blue Bunny used to make it, and it was the best. But then now it's like off the shelves. You know how that goes. And trying to find something of that quality again is not there. But I would say that. Also meat. I like a lot of meat.
Any meat in particular?
Barbecue, chicken, anything fried. Like
anything. It's like, let me get the least healthy way you can make meat. Can you fry it?
Yeah. That's like whatever is the least healthy, the most dangerous for you. That's what I'm usually into.
I love it. The pharmacologist is like, give me all the fried foods.
You have more can you add more trans fats into that?
I get a side of trans fats with my meal. That's the pod. How do you feel?
It's dope. I had fun, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for coming. You're welcome anytime.
Thanks, Josh.
I got you, baby.
All right, G. Good stuff.
That was AJ Faji. You can find him on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at AJ Faji. Steep Conversations is produced and edited by Elliot GB. Our associate editor is Martin Alvarez. Our theme song and additional music are by Oliver Hymack. Our cover art was done by Neil Fraser with photography by Matt Mazisco. Social media by Dia Villegas. Please write a review and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts and wherever else you can. You can send any questions, comments, newly friend game suggestions, or tea suggestions to steepcombos@gmail.com or tweet us at steepcombos. I'm Josh Lanzette, and you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Josh Lanzette. We'll be back next week, so until then, happy steeping.
I'm Nigerian, obviously. Have a
bunch
of, yeah, I know, crazy. Breaking news.